Hi, this is Not America's Sweetheart Davian, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
This is ZPB, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
This is Clay Wilson, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
This is Mickey Fulp, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hey, this is Beef Boy Elliot Tyler, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
This is Big Scary Ontario Independent Pro Wrestler Holden Albright, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, bringing you the latest exclusive breaking news, previewing and reviewing the latest shows from WWE, AEW, New Japan, and everything in between. I am your host, James J. As always, beside me, Scooter Dust.
Wubba lubba dub dub.
And it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with Big Scary, a wolf in human clothing, the big bad wolf Holden Albright. How are you, Holden? And happy belated birthday as well.
Thank you. I'm doing well. For anyone who doesn't know who I am, you can follow me at Holden Pro on Instagram and Twitter, and you can see me on a holiday special that'll be free on YouTube on Christmas Eve. And besides that, I'm not wrestling anywhere else. But I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on your show, guys. I'm very excited.
Oh, sweet. And you've been working for primarily CPBW, CVW, and Barry Wrestling. Is that correct?
I would say those are the CPW, Courage Pro Wrestling, is more of a newer thing, but with Barry Wrestling and Crossbody Pro Wrestling, I've been working with them for about 4 or 5 years. I'm the current Crossbody Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Champion. I will say, I don't believe quarantine days count, but right before everything went into lockdown, I did hold the championship for about 13 months. So I'm still the longest reigning champion. And now while the pandemic goes on, I might never lose the title. But I also wrestle in a ton of promotions in Ontario. Alpha One Wrestling, C4, Border Town. I literally wrestled 114 matches last year. I get around.
Sweet. And you're getting those Bruno Sammartino days with that championship.
Hell yeah, brother. I think I'm past the CM Punk reign. I might be past the Pete Dunne reign. So, yeah, I'm going for the Bruno numbers. I am half Italian after all.
Well, I think we can put a definitive nail in that coffin. Are you primarily face or heel?
So, like, most people that are, like, faces should be heels because they're naturally bad guys. But I'm one of the few people that you look at me, I should naturally be a heel. But as you hear me talking right now, I'm a nice, approachable guy. So I should be babyface. But I'm just an aggressive wrestler that when I'm in there, it goes either way. And hopefully the person that I'm wrestling against can either out-evil me or outperform me. And normally, neither of those happen.
Well, then the days count.
Hell yeah.
Let's talk about corn stuff. What has it been like to, wrestle in the pandemic era of wrestling?
So I've had maybe, I'm trying to count. So the last match I had was Friday, March 13th. And then the match after that was like August 29th. And luckily I was able to get some ring time in there in between. And my real job has just gotten busier because I work in shipping and handling. So that has just been busier during the pandemic because of a lot of online shopping. So shipping is very prevalent. But I've wrestled maybe 4 times since the pandemic started. And to be honest, it's kind of weird, but just like the reactions of fans are so spaced out that it's not like a wave of emotions. Right. And I'm more than happy to wait until the pandemic's over to actually start wrestling on real shows again.
Because you want that Bruno Sammartino 7-year mark, right?
No, God, no. I if I'm being honest, like, I looked into a bunch of different like champions and such, and I started hearing commentators, like even in like boxing and MMA, of at a certain point, does a champion fight to not lose the title as opposed to defending it? And I was luckily enough that all of my matches were very intense, where I could face like a cruiserweight that's like 5'4" and 130 pounds, or I could face a dude that's 6'10" and 330 pounds. And I'm about 5'11", 250, 260. So I'm not a small guy, but I had different challengers every single month that I never got a chance to more so survive. It was always a fight. So I'm more than happy to defend that title again against all competitors. But that's the thing of, if I'm not defending it, I don't feel like I deserve it, if that makes sense.
And that's a great way to look at it, in a way.
Yeah.
Has it been? Have you been primarily wrestling in closed set, or has there been fans in attendance?
So for the August show, it was an outdoor show, and then there was 2 other shows after that I'm blanking on right now, but one was indoors but spaced out. And actually, we did a project, me and a few local wrestlers in the area, called Backyard Pro during the summer, and we basically did backyard wrestling matches. So there was no crowd there, and it was just like closed set technically, but it was legitimately friends' backyards. So like the mom was there barbecuing. That was one experience. And then for the holiday special we have coming up, so I was actually going to run a show on November 22nd, and I had like super crazy booked for it, and the pandemic happened. So it's like, okay, whatever, I'll need to readjust. And then I had this wild idea in September of having a holiday special where all the matches will be themed around different Christmas and holiday movies. So doing that, there was a brief moment of time during like the new restrictions, because I don't know where you guys are, but in Ontario and the GTA specifically, the Greater Toronto area where I live, our restrictions have changed like every 4 weeks, and there was a brief moment of time when we were going to record that we could have had like 50 people in attendance, and unfortunately the restrictions changed the day before we were going to do that show.
Ooh.
So that was my only proper closed set show, and everyone can watch it Christmas Eve. And it felt real weird not wrestling in front of anyone, because like even I can't really watch WWE right now because the lack of fans, just it feels like something's missing.
Definitely. Yeah.
Now you said you were booking a show. Are we to interpret that as you actually do more than in ring talent? You actually book shows, and is there a promoter's license you need to have to do that up in Ontario?
So up until about 2006 or 5, I believe, there was like a commission in Ontario that got disbanded. You can look it up. Lou Fisto, she really fought hard so that she could have intergender matches, and the commission was basically just like a money scam. So now you don't need a promoter's license, but you do need like insurance, and I don't own a ring personally, so I would have to rent that. And it was literally just, if you have money, you can run a show. There's no promoter's license up here in Ontario, which luckily in my time in wrestling in the last 8 years, there hasn't been too many scumbags that have like taken the money and run. Most of their shows just never happened. So, but I just had the idea. I'm like, it's a new challenge. Like, when you first get into wrestling, it's, oh, how do I have a match? And then you start wrestling matches and you start getting better. And I took more of a hands-on, like, not teaching, but just like minor coaching of some younger guys that I like, and just showing them how, like, I don't know a lot. I've been doing this for 8 years. There's a lot that I still can learn. But if someone's 1, 2, 3 years in, I can show them how to get to my level. So I took a hands-on approach with that. And then I'm like, I see a lot of things not done well when it comes to promoting shows. As a talent, I can see it that way. So I'm like, well, I can either sit on the sidelines and critique and moan, or I could do something about it. And I was going to do that with the promotion was going to be called Go Hard Pro Wrestling. You can follow it on Twitter and Instagram at Go Hard PW. But I'm more than just a bell-to-bell guy. I enjoy seeing the whole process from putting a show together to promoting it to the fan engagement. Like that's all it is. I'm just a huge wrestling fan. There's a Stone Cold tribute tattoo on my left calf. Like, I'm a fan at the end of the day. Even if I stopped wrestling, I know I'd still be watching it.
Well, I want this on the record. If I make my comeback, I'm coming up to Ontario, and you and I are going to have a match for that belt.
Well, I don't know if I'll still have the belts by then. But where are you guys located? Sorry, I wasn't sure.
Scooter's in New York, and I'm in Southern California.
Oh, great little long distance connection here. Hey, New York isn't that far from Ontario. If you come up here, I'll have a match with you.
Well, I'm in New York City, so
That's like 11 hours.
Yeah, well, if I make my way to the Great White North,
Clearly
it's on.
post-pandemic when borders are open
clearly.
again. You want to know what? I'll make my way to New York.
Ooh, it's a lot tougher to set up an event in New York.
Oh,
than it
no,
is
I'm
in
not booking
Ontario.
a show. I'll come visit. We'll grab like lunch or grab a slice of pizza
Oh,
and
okay.
watch a movie.
That's perfect.
You know, we had Beef Boy Elliot Tyler on last week, and he seemed to like pineapple on his pizza. Are you a pineapple pizza guy?
Well, I'm not a big connoisseur of white women, and that's mostly the only reason I get pineapple on my pizza is I'm normally dating a white girl that likes it. I'm a big fan of pineapple juice, though, because I'm a considerate human. But
well, I think that was the best answer we could have got out of that.
Hey, I'm just saying, like, get me like a triple meat pizza, 5 meat, whatever.
Now you're talking.
Put other stuff on it, but I just care about the meats.
I thought he was about to say, give me 3 white women and.
I can barely handle one. They're crazy.
Now, I noticed on your Facebook page you had a picture of yourself in front of the Impact sign. Was there ever could you maybe tell us about that? Did you visit Impact Wrestling, or was there ever maybe communication between you and them?
So Impact Wrestling is now, even though they're located in Nashville, Anthem and Scott D'Amore are like Ontario and Canadian based. So Impact is kind of a Canadian company a little bit now. And what's it called? So when they would have their one night only shows where they partnered with local promotions, like you can see it on the Impact Plus app. They did a bunch of shows like that, and I was contacted by Destiny Pro Wrestling, which is a promotion in Toronto. And what happened though is I'm gonna wrestle Stone Rockwell. You can watch this match on Impact Plus, and I really enjoyed the match. I think the show is called Bad Intentions, but in my mind, it was very much this is a Destiny wrestling show. And then I was sitting at the merch table before the doors open, and I look over at the ring, and they're putting up the Impact aprons, and I look over at a guy that I really respect, Josh Alexander, and I didn't look over at him. He noticed me just like space out for a second, and he asked, "You good?" I'm like, it just sank in. Because this whole time I was like, okay, this is a Destiny show. And I legitimately, there are people that will say, I wrestle the same way in front of 5 people or 500. That is BS. They do not. I see them wrestle in front of 5 people, and they don't go as hard as they do when there's a bigger crowd. I wrestle for my payday, and that's it. So the intensity you get from me, you will see it in front of 6 people or 600. There's no difference for me. I can show my work, and that's why I've gotten respect from people. But the show goes on, and the apron's getting put on, and Josh asked me, he's like, "You good?" I'm like, "Oh," it just sank in that, oh, this is an Impact Wrestling thing. And I'm a huge wrestling fan. I love TNA. When Christian Cage debuted and Sting debuted on New Year's Eve, I was watching it on Spike TV. I was like, oh, it's an alternative. And it wasn't until that moment that I'm like, oh, okay, this is real. And I'm one of the people that, because I wrestle the same way, I don't get in my head about all of this. So I go out there and I do my job pretty much. And that was a moment where I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. This is a opportunity, and it went well. And I'm on a local and smaller level, I hustle real hard. But it's because I'm not satisfied with where my work is right now, because we can all improve. No matter where we are in life, we can always improve. So I never, or I haven't thought that I'm ready for like a bigger spotlight yet, like Impact Wrestling, AEW, WWE. But I know I could get there. So I just constantly work harder and harder. And the one thing about the pandemic that kind of sucks, it's last year I consciously in February made the decision I was only going to wrestle in Ontario. And I used it kind of as my developmental time. And I wrestled 114 matches. I became, quote unquote, one of the top guys in the territory. And I was like, okay, well, now I'm going to start expanding into the States. And in February, I wrestled for AIW in Cleveland. And I was at Sanctuary Pro Wrestling in Detroit. And it was setting up opportunities for the rest of the year. And then the pandemic hit. And unlike most people that are butthurt about it, the whole world's going through this. It's not like just wrestling got shut down or comedy. It's everything got affected. So we need to like just take a moment to breathe. But that is my one unfortunate, was I was about to wrestle a whole lot. I was actually going to be in California in the end of April. I was going to do like a 3-week road trip from Vancouver down to California, throwing Seattle in there and everything. But I'm one of the few people, these opportunities didn't happen, but I'm not bitter about it, because whenever the world restarts, they'll still be there.
Well, that answers my question about the only match listed that took place in Akron.
Well, you actually just mentioned somebody, Josh Alexander. You wrestled Josh and Eden Page, who is the North of Impact Wrestling. Could you maybe tell us about your relationship with them and maybe what impact they've made on your career? Pun intended.
Josh Alexander is legitimately the reason I'm the wrestler I am today. Back in 2018, when I was entering my 4th year into wrestling, we wrestled each other in the second round of a tournament in January, but then I wrestled him in a 30-minute main event where I actually won the crossbody title the first time. And he beat the living hell out of me. Like, the intensity he has, if you've ever seen a Josh Alexander match,
oh yeah,
it is scary, intense, and it hurts just as much. He chopped me until my chest bled once, and you can watch these matches actually for free on Crossbody Pro Wrestling on YouTube. Look up Josh Alexander, Holden Albright. There's a fun triple threat match we had in September of 2018 with Jody Threat. And yeah, he just very much how I like looking out for younger guys now and like giving them tips. He picks a couple of people, not like consciously, but he sees people that work hard and he helps them along. And he was the first person that I felt like genuinely cared about my success without me having to like pay him, because he's not my trainer. He's just a guy that likes pro wrestling and he wants everyone to get better. So, and then Ethan Page, on the other hand, he's such a passionate and creative person. He started Alpha One Pro Wrestling because he didn't like the type of wrestling that's happening in the area here, and he's definitely made steps forward. I actually booked him for the holiday special on Christmas Eve, and it's just like those two guys there's a reason that they're the two top guys from Ontario, for the fact of their work ethic. And it's not just in the gym or in the ring, it's everywhere. It's always thinking about pro wrestling. It's how to be more creative. Like the fact that Ethan Page has done everything during this pandemic, Twitch streaming, YouTubing, his Twitter game's fire, Instagram, everything. It's the fact that you can see how much he hustles. He's gone into the best shape of his life. I told him he looks like 2003 Hollywood Rock, and The Rock is his favorite wrestler. So it's just all, you can see that in those guys. But legitimately, Josh has been the living hell out of me. We've wrestled all over this province, and every time I get a chance to wrestle him, I feel like it's like another exam for me in pro wrestling of passing it. And yeah, it's a great test, and they're the two top guys for a reason. They've been tag teaming for 10 years. You can see it in their work. They're the longest reigning Impact Tag Champions. Like,
Not as long as you, though.
Tag champ wise, yeah, I've had a few tag belts, but legitimately, they're two guys that are just, the reason they're successful is because they're good guys and they're passionate. And that's all I care about. I don't care if someone's talented, as long as they have passion and they're not full of BS. That's what I care about.
You know, I feel like it's only in wrestling could you say somebody beats the crap out of me, but I can't say enough nice things about them.
Yeah, there's something about an abusive relationship I can make a reference to. But
Scooter, you had a question?
Okay. All right. Now you're a big fellow, but yet you have an uncanny ability to move around the ring like some of the greats we've seen in the business, like Bam Bam Bigelow and Vader. When you started out, did you think your size would be a benefit or a hindrance?
oh, I never thought I'd get out of training. My goal was just to have a wrestling match, and I got there, and everything developed over time. I blame it on soccer, playing soccer as a kid. So I know that when I have a kid, he's immediately going into sports, because it's all about just knowing what your body is. And I'm a bigger dude, but I'm big everywhere. I got big legs. I got a big torso. I have a Neanderthal-shaped skull. Like, it's all just proportionate, where it's I will look at big dudes and they have skinny legs, and I just don't understand how they can walk on toothpicks. Like, I'm just like, oh, it looks like an ice cream cone. Why are you like not like breaking your leg every single minute? And it's just, I'm a big fan of Samoa Joe, and it's just knowing your body. I did not think I was going to be able to do half of what I'm able to do. I'm also one of the big guys that doesn't do a bunch of power stuff, because I know for sure not every fat guy is strong. So I don't like when I see a fat guy struggling to be strong. Just throw a punch. Just learn how to throw a good punch.
No, you just said you didn't think you could do some of the things you did in the ring. You're able to do a moonsault. When do you kind of realize you could actually do it? And was that your idea, or was that just somebody saying, hey, why don't you try and do a moonsault? How did that come about?
For the most part, no one ever tells me to try stuff. They try to tell me not to do things. And what happened with the moonsault is, like I said, I'm big everywhere. Where I look down, I'm like, I got big legs, but I also have a big butt. And I'm like, I think if I just like look back enough, I'll be able that my legs will just follow where my head is. And the moonsault is very scary looking because it isn't 100% smooth or crisp, but I'm a big dude. I like it looking dirty and nasty. If it looks perfect, then it's like, ooh, instead of, I want more of that shock factor. And yeah, it was literally, if there's a big enough crash pad, almost every wrestler will do something dumb. For instance, me learning the moonsault on a big-ass crash pad at the training school, Hamilton Pro Wrestling, that I was dropping into, they also have like a balcony. So I said, oh, put the crash pad under the balcony. I'll take a Mick Foley cell bump off of it. And I'm one of only 3 people that have done that in that building.
That's really cool.
Yeah, some might even say that the moonsault, and I'm assuming James is referring to the moonsault in your match with Evil Uno, that some might say it was more than a moonsault. Some might even say it was a corkscrew senton.
There's some times where I look over to my left sometimes, and that match, actually, Evil Uno broke his toe earlier that morning because he was doing a training seminar. And so that whole match was kind of like making sure I didn't hurt this guy that needed to be at TV on Wednesday.
Hey, At least he didn't ask you to join the Dark Order. That's a plus.
Nah, I feel like people don't want me in their groups because they know I'll start like pointing out what's wrong with stuff, and not to become a leader, just pointing out obvious stuff, and people don't like when obvious stuff is pointed out to them.
That sounds like a great gimmick.
That's just my life. It's not a gimmick, it's a shoot.
Another thing you've done is intergender matches. You were in the first ever intergender for cross-body pro wrestling against Jody Dredd. Could you tell us about how you approach wrestling a woman rather than a man, and maybe what's some of the benefits and just how you go into a match like that?
So I'm a big fan of intergender wrestling just for the fact of, in Ontario at least, and actually anywhere in wrestling, there's always less women than there are men. So for instance, if I get booked on a show, there's like 100 people you can book against me. But if a woman gets booked on a show, especially in Ontario, there's only like 5 other girls that you could book them with. So I look at intergender wrestling as, here's your roster, and because you don't have a huge women's division, yeah, let the men and the women mix each other up. Back in 2018, when I had my first intergender match with Jody, Jody is jacked. She is way stronger than most of the men, and like she'll murder you. She'll punch you in your mouth, and you'll lose a tooth. So approaching a match with Jody, it's a little more different because it's very much like wrestling a smaller guy, like a cruiserweight. With her, but then I faced someone like Alexia Nicole a couple times, who she's like 4'11". I think she is under 4'11", but she doesn't want to be legally a midget. And what's it called? And she's tiny. Like, yeah, she's in shape and she squats and stuff, but like she's tiny. She's strong, but she's tiny. So wrestling her, it's a little more different of trying to plan a match, but legitimately, when you plan a match, I enjoy the fact that all of my matches are slightly different for the fact that my opponents are always different. And it wasn't until actually my last proper match before the pandemic started was an intergender match against Addie Starr. And I asked, Josh Alexander was in the locker room actually, and I asked him, I called my match to him, asked any advice he had, and he said, I probably wouldn't do this. And I was like, okay. And then just learning that psychology, I was like, okay, cool, I didn't do that. And a lot of intergender matches come down to just like, I call them just like sexist jokes or misogynistic remarks where, oh, it's a woman and a guy, so there has to be sexual tension. No, there doesn't. We're both pro wrestlers. I'm trying to win the match. You're trying to win the match. You're trying to knock my teeth down my throat. I'm just trying to pin you. I don't want to punch a woman. So what happens though is while we were actually planning that match, Addie came up with, oh, are you sure you don't want to do any like haha stuff? And she said, the fans don't want, because I wrestle a very strong style. She said, the fans don't want New Japan. They want haha. And I told her straight up, the fans don't know what they want until they see it. Because it was the first time having a show in this certain city. And it's just like, and that's on YouTube also. You could, I think that's on Courage's YouTube account. But if you look up PTBO Wrestling, stands for Peterborough Wrestling. We had a great match. It was hard hitting, and the fact that our genitals were different didn't matter. Once you got into that match, you're like, oh, it's a big dude and a small person, and they're just beating the hell out of each other. And that's one of my favorite matches I think I've ever had. And it's just, I enjoy challenges. I didn't get into wrestling to take a day off. I enjoy pushing myself and my opponents harder.
Right. And, I watched the match with Jody Dredd, and it didn't seem like Jody was walking. It seemed like she was really laying in those,
She hit me in the dick. She just punched me. She just tried to, like, get a punch in, and because she was getting up from her knees, she just swung for the fences, and, like, spit literally falls out of my mouth because the building was real hot on that day, too. And I could tell, like, the fans all saw where she just hit me, and I definitely felt it. We're best friends also, so you hit your friends a little harder. I laid in some chops in there, but, like, I did not punch her or hit her as hard as she hit me on that one strike.
And you know what? You could tell. You could definitely tell. Scooter, you have a question.
All right. Take us back to your very first day of training. What was going through your mind? What were you expecting? What were you not expecting? Tell us about that day.
So I'm weird. I have 2 first days of training. I have, back in grade 7, I believe it was, there was a breakfast news channel, and they did a segment in a wrestling school in Brampton, Ontario. And I was like, oh my God, that's like a few blocks away from me. And I went to the school. I had like 1 training session, and I think I probably got concussed slightly, but I didn't realize it just by taking some. We sat down and we just took back bumps. And at a certain point, I'm in grade 7. I'm a very fat kid, not chubby at all. And I did not tuck my chin enough that I was like, ooh. So I'm dizzy now. And looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, that was probably a minor head trauma. But back in February 2014, that was the first day that I'll say like I actually started training. And it was. What happened was I was supposed to go on a trip. The other people bailed. I had those money saved. I was like, oh, well, I guess now's a good time to start pro wrestling training. And then I went there, and I'm very much a quiet guy when you first meet me. And it's my way of just judging what the atmosphere is like. And just like, I don't want to shoehorn in, this is my personality, like me, where it's like, no, I found someone, and it was actually Space Monkey before he was Space Monkey, and I whispered my inappropriate jokes to him, and he laughed. I'm like, oh, we're friends now, and then just spiraled from there. And then like before I got my green light to wrestle in November of 2015, I had like 4 different wrestling schools I trained at because stuff either kept getting shut down or new ones open, so I switched. But it's like I'm a big fan of like shoot interviews and podcasts, so I kind of knew what to expect. And just like whenever you're in a new environment, as long as you're not a poop head, because I don't know if we can swear on here. You can. Okay, as long as you're not a shithead, you can be good at stuff.
All right.
No, one of the things I noticed was your entrance. You come out in a suit with a gigantic wolf head. I usually take notes when I watch some matches. I stopped and I watched that entrance. Could you maybe tell us about your thought process on your entrance and maybe how it came about? And was it something you put a lot of effort in?
I have to entirely thank Crossbody Pro Wrestling for that. I love the fact that if you look at Crossbody, and they're also available, their more recent shows in the past year and a bit is available on IWTV. And legitimately, you can see my growth if you go on that YouTube channel I was a year into wrestling when they had their first show, and I had a match against Freddie Mercurio. I wore a completely different singlet. I was bald-headed with a beard. And then as time goes on, I started doing a tag team called the Riot Makers, where we had these cool strobe light entrances that straight up blinded us most of the time. I tripped over the ring steps at least 3 times during that entrance. And then we switched up from the Riot Makers, so I went more my character. But there's a moment there when I was wearing this giant like bunny mask that kind of looked like Five Nights at Freddy's. And then it broke because I was drunk at an anime convention and I dropped my mask.
Oh.
Yeah, so I had to find a new one.
No.
And then I found this wolf mask, and it was just like, it's creepy, intimidating. I wore a suit for a little bit there. Now I wear like a leather jacket that has a bloody handprint on one side. And it's just like, it's slowly but surely, and like the production value at Crossbody, I love it. It's literally like a small AWA style studio, and Ben Ortmans has helped me so much. He was one of my coaches when I first started, and our progression of the character of Holden Albright, and especially the entrance. That's something that I'm one of the few people that when the lights go out and you're at a show and you hear the first kind of chords of my entrance music, you're like, oh shit, Holden Albright's about to come out. And like, I enjoy that now. And the funny thing is, I wanted to use that music when I first started and I was told no. And then 2 years later, I started using it and everyone loves it now.
Isn't that always how it goes, right?
Not always. Some people do have dumb ideas that people tell them not to do.
So the wolf mask is indeed a mask, and we do not have to call PETA, correct?
Well, you can call him Walter, but he was never real.
Okay. And one thing that caught my ear was you said that you went to an anime convention. Are you an anime fan?
So like, I can look over at my like Yu-Gi-Oh Funko Pops and like my statue right now. But like, I'm a nerd guy. I want to say though, like, I'm a jack of all trades kind of thing when it comes to knowledge. Unless it's wrestling, I don't know a lot about anything, but I know a little bit about everything. So it's like, oh, I like The Simpsons, I like Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, I know other animes, like One Piece or like Inuyasha and like stuff like that, but I'm not a big anime guy. But my friends always were. So like, the first time I ever went to that convention was before wrestling, and I dressed as Captain Underpants. Yeah, I waxed my whole body, and then I got a real bad sunburn. My head looked like a tomato.
Oh God, I've done that too. Oof.
Oh, you put coconut oil on your head instead of like the real oil that you're supposed to use?
No, I use Nair.
Oh yeah. I use Nair after waxing.
I swear to God, I have on my my tablet right now a Yu-Gi-Oh card game that I usually play every day.
Is that one like the lightning or a speed duel?
Oh no, I play Dual Generations. It's called, and I really dig that one. That one's like went out of date now, and it's now Duel Links. I don't necessarily like Duel Links as much.
See, I checked out after like Yu-Gi-Moto and Seto Kaiba. When they went to like GX or DX, I was like, okay, this is going real anime, and I don't have time to commit to all the information.
No, you are absolutely right about that.
But I did end up going to those anime conventions because they had wrestling there. So one of my favorite things is I never vanity tweet, but at that day I did. And I looked up Anime North, which is the convention in Toronto, and wrestling. And I saw 2 tweets from the same guy. And it was, whoa, there's wrestling in the parking lot at Anime North. This is crazy. And then his next tweet, because I was the first match, went, holy shit, I just saw a Canadian Destroyer in the parking lot of Anime North. This is crazy.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect that, but like, I've been like the last 2 years to an anime convention where New Japan has been had wrestling matches. So like,
I think it was for a CEO.
Yeah, so it's right. That's right up my alley. I love anime and I love wrestling, so it totally works out.
I think there's a huge crossover between pro wrestling and anime that, like, I think a lot of people, like, a lot of nerds think, like, their nerdy thing is just for them. But, like, no, there's literally bleed over from everything. Everyone's a nerd. You just need to find out what they're nerdy about. And that could be about video games, The Office, Hey Arnold Funko Pops that I'm looking at. Like, everyone's a nerd. You just need to get it out of them.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
Scooter, what are you a nerd about?
Oh God, what am I a nerd about?
What is he not a nerd about?
I think that's the better question. Star Wars, wrestling, trivia in general, game shows, and that's how I try and make a lot of my money.
Like history? Wait, you make money through trivia? What are you doing? Going to like the local bar and just saying, I know the square root of this?
I know. I play apps on my phone that give away money. I don't want to give it unpaid for a plug here, but yeah, HQ, trivia, Back
Do
when
you like
Who Wants to
pop
Be a
culture
Millionaire.
trivia or like actual historical facts?
I am an encyclopedia of pop culture.
What's your favorite genre? You like a movies guy? You like a pre-1950s TV show guy?
And when it comes to TV shows, if it interests me, I'll watch it. When it comes to movies, again, if it interests me, I'll watch it. I'm a huge because I'm debating on which one is more, but I think they're both about the same level with me. The Marvel Cinematic Universe and Star Wars. In fact, because I have a ton of Marvel stuff, the Marvel Encyclopedia and whatnot. But when it comes to Star Wars, I have this. And that is an animatronic Baby Yoda.
Oh, I thought you were gonna have like the BB-8 or something rolling around.
No, that unfortunately I don't have. I'm a huge Mandalorian fan as well.
Actually, have the BB-8.
Can you tell me what happened on the recent episode? Was that like the last episode or?
No, it's about the middle of the season. Rosario Dawson, and spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. Rosario Dawson plays the Jedi Master from Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Rebels, Ahsoka Tano, and we also learn Baby Yoda actually has a name. It's Grogu.
Oh yeah, I saw a meme that said, "What's your name, Grogu?" Oh, it's from Superbad actually. The police officers when they're asking McLovin's name, and when they're like, "What's your name?" and he says it, he's like, "No, we like McLovin better," and it was that, but instead it goes Grogu. Or whatever it was you pronounced, and it's like, no, we like Baby Yoda better. Like see, this is the thing. I talk to people that are real nerdy about this stuff. That I learn that information without watching it. But are you a big like Clone Wars Rebel, like all the cartoons also?
Absolutely.
See, the cartoons, I will say, are the one thing I have not watched entirely.
Oh my god,
Whoa.
what's wrong with you, Scooter?
I thought like the cartoons were like the shit.
Well,
like, everyone's like, "Oh, you gotta watch Clone Wars because they released the new trilogy."
The cartoons are exceptional. I haven't watched all of them necessarily in order. I am a huge fan of what is now known as the Legends canon. Back with all the books by Kevin Anderson and whatnot. And on the most recent episode of The Mandalorian, they mention Grand Admiral Thrawn, who was the big bad in the Solo Twins saga. Before that, the Jason and Jaina Solo were retconned to make room for Emo Ren, and but the fact that that's now coming back into that lore is now coming back, and part of the fan groups I see are wondering if the character from the Star Wars Dark Forces games is coming back, Kyle Katarn, Mara Jade, who in the extended universe canon ended up married to Luke Skywalker, and they had a daughter. She's the one who's the master of Teras Kasi, the space martial arts. See, that's how nerdy I can get.
You're such a nerd. I fucking love it.
I was just gonna say we got a lot out of Scooter. His nerdum definitely came out.
Yeah, that was like when Shrek says like ogres are like onions. There's just so many layers. You just pulled a thread. I feel like when I was Charlie Day and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I was showing all these connections for the conspiracy board.
And that's just really one layer deep. It goes really deep with me. I'm my own personal rabbit hole, so to speak. And if you keep on asking me, you'll find out more and more, and I won't shut up, and I'll go off on tangents like I'm doing right now.
I love it though, because the tangent makes sense. I loved it.
Let's get back on track.
Yes.
Holden, you've wrestled Darby Allin before?
Yes, I have. He's a crazy little dude.
Before you actually wrestled him, did you know who Darby Allin was?
Oh, 100%. Because like his first rise to stardom was facing Ethan Page in Evolve, and
That's right.
Page is one of the guys that like because he's like a local guy. I would see what he's doing, and I think when he got to Evolve, he only had like 6 matches. So I saw Darby Allin's rise. I was like, oh, this dude's crazy. And actually, I wasn't supposed to wrestle him. Someone else was supposed to wrestle him. I wrestled on earlier in that show, and then they didn't show up, so I got thrown in the match, and it was a 6-man tag. And he's crazy. It's awesome. And actually, Evil Uno was in that match too on the same team as him.
That's actually right, yeah.
And the funny thing is, so Darby does his coffin drop from the top rope to the outside on like me and a couple other people. And what happens is, because it was in the small bar, I believe it was at Demand Lucha, and I believe their shows are on IWTV, if not High Spots. And what happens is he falls. Okay, we're all down, and then there's like, know when you're lying down and like you roll over your blanket and you're just constricted.
Yep.
So that's what happened with the ring apron, though. So when he landed, he's on top. I'm on top of the ring apron. He's on top of it to where like there's just all this like tension. I'm like, okay, hold on, and I moved the apron. He went to roll under the ring, and he's like, oh, thanks, dude. And what happens though is there was a hardcore match right before this, and he rolls under the ring, and then I just hear him go, "Oh, what the fuck? There's thumbtacks under here. Why?"
Oh God.
And like, and he's a big thumbtack guy right now. But like he's always been that way. But when you're not expecting thumbtacks,
I could
I
imagine.
still remember that.
that sounds a lot like it's similar, not exactly to a spot I did back in the day as a corner guy. This was during our big match of the of the year at the event of the year, and it was a gimmick match, and one of the ways to be eliminated was to go through a barbed wire table.
Was it a real table, or was it just like whatever the plank of wood's called on top of like table legs?
It was a real table. It was ran by my mentor Mikey Whipwreck. So
oh, you're a Mikey Whipwreck guy?
I'm a Mikey Whipwreck student. Yes.
Shout out Mikey. His son just went through surgery, right?
Yeah. Yes. As very few, or the people who I'm closer to call him Jim. To save my guy from getting eliminated, I decide to take the table out of the match, and I'm wearing a suit and everything, and I just decide to jump through it, and then I just roll over, and my hand comes right down on a piece of exposed barbed wire that was not gimmicked.
Ooh.
Well, like barbed wire it can be gimmicked, but we're all idiots. So instead of having 3 barbs, we have 1 or 2. Like it still stabs you.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, and most people I tell that story. I tell the bump. I don't tell them what happened after. That's actually the first time I've ever told that. So
there's that Magic Secrets Revealed show in the 90s, and now
yep.
this is Scooter's Wrestling Secrets Revealed.
And it is now time for that segment that we all love, Holden Albright's Bizarre Adventure. You are a professional wrestler. You go up and down roads, and as a pro wrestler, weird, bizarre, or just downright crazy things are bound to happen. So could you tell us maybe a story that fits that description?
So, okay, I will say, like, what's funny is I wear the wolf mask, and most of the time, I'm 97% sure werewolves aren't real. When you're driving on these back roads and there's no like lights on the street and there's only 2 lanes, that 97% sure becomes 97% sure werewolves are probably real and they're gonna come out of the woodwork. Which is funny because I wear a wolf mask, so I
Right.
know people are scared of it because I'm scared of it.
You're
but
kind of
there was
Batmaning it, right?
Pardon?
You're kind of Batmaning it, where he says, "I'm afraid of
Yes.
bats."
100%. And what happens, okay, so there's one time I actually had a show in upstate New York, and I was driving with a female wrestler named Casey Spinelli, and we're coming back. We're not at the border yet. We're not at the border yet, and it was also the first time I found out I had a nose hair, because I just went to like rub my nose, and I thought I had like a cut or just like a booger or something, and then I pulled, and then I looked and I saw a hair, and then I cried a little bit out of my left eye because it was so painful.
Ooh,
But
yeah.
we
That's fun.
pulled into like we pulled into a gas station, and it was like the middle of nowhere. We were like on a hill, and you needed to come down like half a mile to get into this gas station, where like that whole half mile was a driveway. And then we pull up, and there's some sort of like dude inside a shack. And from the time I got out of the driver's seat to go to the gas tank, which isn't far, and the shack was maybe like 50, 100 feet away, the dude just appeared from nowhere. He looked like the groundskeeper from a Scooby-Doo episode. It was creepy. And then, so I felt the gas tank, I pay, I'm like, okay. And I even asked Spinelli, because I think she had to go use the washroom. And she's like, I'm not using the washroom here. And I asked her, I'm like, did that guy just like kind of appear out of the shack? He's like, yeah, that was real quick. I didn't see him walk. It's like, oh. And then as we drove away, we saw this kid that he could have been between like 14 and 21, but he looked real young, just standing like near the door of the shack. And I keep saying shack, but it's like where you would go pay. It was like almost a shed, but it's a small gas station, so they put it together. Whatever. I don't know how to build things. And while driving away, though, it's just like there were so many questions we had, but it was like 3 a.m. in upstate New York somewhere on a back road, and we're just like, we can either ask these questions or never think of it again. And that point of like, oh, never think about it again. Good. Let's stick with that one.
And then when you drove back, that gas station was no longer there. There you gotta go story.
Next time.
All right. I think the only thing I could say to that is zoinks.
Legitimately.
Ruh-roh.
I'm a Scooby-Doo guy. I have multiple Scooby-Doo shirts that make it seem like I say perhaps to drugs.
Now, on a more serious matter, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Like, I have like no aspirations for wrestling besides just have a wrestling match and be a wrestler. And then I became a not horrible wrestler. And I always like, I don't like saying I'm good. I compare myself to other people and just go, yeah, like I'm better than them, but that's just because I care and I try a lot. And it's legitimately, before all of the drama in the WWE recently of all the human rights violations, I never wanted to go to the WWE because I never wanted to hate wrestling. And a lot of my favorite wrestlers have quit the WWE in one way or another. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to be bitter. We all have ups and downs in our lives. Some downs last longer and are harder than others, but my one constant has always been pro wrestling. I could throw on Stone Cold Steve Austin promos. I could watch a Eddie Guerrero Kurt Angle match. Like I could always escape into pro wrestling. And I think like if I ever went to WWE, I would hate pro wrestling at a certain point. But like until my body shuts down, I think I have until 35 of like competing as frequently as I am now. But I also do podcasts. I do YouTube videos. I like doing stuff in entertainment. I do stand-up comedy. My goal is I want to be like a presenter or a host of a talk show. But yeah, like with wrestling, it's like I love what AEW is doing. I love what Impact's doing. New Japan's fucking amazing. There's all these things. I also love seeing all these independent wrestlers that are making a living from pro wrestling. Like I just not just watched. I just read the Young Bucks autobiography, and it's great and motivating for someone that's an independent pro wrestler. Just have faith and believe in yourself. And like I'm just gonna go until the wheels fall off. And if you've seen the way I wrestle, that might be tomorrow. But I'm just gonna work hard and just try not to hate wrestling, because the moment people start hating wrestling and they don't leave wrestling, that bitterness is just bullshit. Why would you put that negativity in your life? Like, I'm sure for Scooter, when he feels down, he could just watch Star Wars or find out Baby Yoda's real name. Like, I'm not too sure. Like, what are you nerdy about?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh my God! That's asking what I'm not nerdy about. You know, I love anime. Like, I'm a super anime fan. I also love Star Wars. Unlike Scooter, I've seen all of the Clone Wars and Rebels.
So you love Star Wars. Scooter just likes it.
I have an original VHS copy of the first Christmas special, holiday special.
Well, I have Darth Maul's lightsaber.
Nerd Wars! Fight!
And I have Boba Fett's autograph, so there.
Yeah, which Boba Fett, though?
The original.
Yeah, like the original actor?
Yep.
Tamura Morrison.
Yep.
That's not the original Boba Fett.
I don't know. I was like 3 when I got it, but it was the original Boba Fett. I know that for sure.
Of course, our liege, David Prowse, unfortunately recently just passed. He was the guy in Darth Vader's suit.
Didn't he think he was actually going to be the voice of Darth Vader also?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I'm glad that, it was James Earl Jones.
And to put an end to this nerd fight, I have a dark saber. I win.
Is it the Mandalorian darksaber?
No.
Okay, we need to talk about this
like
after the show.
This is like East Coast, West Coast rap battles, but it's for Star Wars fans.
Back to what you were saying earlier about making it with the Living Crew, that 2 of the guys I started out in the business with are currently part of the Dark Order. Alex Reynolds and John Silver.
Yo, John Silver is jacked, and no one appreciates just how wide that man is.
Yeah, he's also smaller than me. I'm 5'4", so
I met the Beaver Boys twice, so
Yep.
This is going back a few years. But the first time I saw John Silver, I was like, "Oh my god!" He had to like turn sideways to go through a door. No one appreciates how big the Meat Man is.
Yeah, well, he wasn't that jacked when I knew him. And another guy who had a hand in training me. Don't really see him that much anymore, but Tony Nese.
Is he still signed?
Yes.
He's actually Scooter's evil twin, as we've well established.
Yeah. That's why I grow my beard the way I do, so people can tell me I don't look like him.
But you're still jacked to the gills, right?
No. No, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm jacked. In fact, if anybody would say I was in shape, I'd say that shape was round.
There you go.
I told someone that they're shaped like an avocado the other day. And like, I don't mean to insult people when I say things like that, but like, it was way too specific to like not be an insult.
And speaking of specifics, what is a match people should maybe go out of their way to see that best describes what Holden Albright is all about?
For free, I would say go watch me versus Josh Alexander from August 2018 on Crossbody's YouTube account. But if you do have an IWTV subscription, I would say watch my last Crossbody match before the pandemic hit of myself versus Speedball Mike Bailey. And I've wrestled guys that hit hard. Oh my God. We started with like 4 minutes of just forearms. And Mike Bailey's a small dude. He's known for his kicks. But until he hit me, I was like, oh, so this is Japan.
Yeah, Mike Bailey he means business, that guy.
Yeah, like I can't wait until the pandemic's over to see how he explodes worldwide.
And we're nearing the conclusion of this interview. We do have the Wrestling with Speed round. I'm going to throw some questions at you, and you could say what's the first thing that comes to mind, first thing you think of, however you'd like to answer them. Are you ready,
Oh
Holden?
no, this can be dangerous. This can be dangerous, but I'm ready.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Worst wrestler of all time.
Like, I feel like I could name some, like, really small-time independent wrestlers that no one would know. But what's the point of that? I'd say, like, worst wrestler that got, like, popularity was James Ellsworth. I'm still convinced. I'm convinced that when that Styles Clash accident happened, if AJ didn't save his life, he was trying to break his own neck so that WWE could pay him out. I'm pretty sure he wanted that.
You're main eventing WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight Championship. Who is your opponent?
Past or present?
Ooh. Like, I feel like I want to say The Undertaker. Because, like, it would be WrestleMania main event. Like, it would mean so much more with The Undertaker having, like, WrestleMania legacy. And just, like, I feel like we could have a banger of a match.
That's a really good answer.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm considering, like, 2009 Undertaker because you said past or present. So I'm thinking, like, Edge and him at WrestleMania 24.
That was a good one.
Not him and Roman, like, 2 years ago.
Yeah. If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
I want to say The Undertaker's Ministry of Darkness theme.
You know, we were just talking about that, and you know, that's a seriously underrated a theme song.
That or The Brood. They're both bangers.
Oh, for sure. Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
A piss poor excuse for people not being better wrestlers. Well, so here's my thing. It's like, I'll go on like a little tangent from that. When people say wrestling was better when people believed it, so I just read JR's first autobiography, and legitimately everyone was starving in the territories. Like, Stone Cold mentions that he just ate potatoes for a year because he made no money. Like, on the indies right now, people are making $100,000 plus a year just by being a wrestler. So if you can't appreciate where the industry is right now and go, oh, well, it was better in the 80s, good. Then watch the 80s because everyone's making more money right now because there's more fans. Oh, the ratings aren't as high as they used to be. Guess what? The ratings for everything suck. Like, there's new streaming services. There's new everything. But pro wrestling is like ice cream. You can go and enjoy vanilla ice cream. You can enjoy strawberry ice cream. You can enjoy comedy wrestling. You can enjoy deathmatch wrestling. Just because wrestling isn't the way it used to be doesn't mean it's bad. If anything, it's better. I'm a big dude that does a moonsault every now and then. That doesn't mean I don't end a match with a headbutt every now and then. Like, god damn it, work fucking harder.
Damn! I like this side of Holden. I like this side of Holden Albright.
See, because I keep it off of Twitter. That's what I do. I have opinions that aren't the most positive. Maybe they might seem a little negative. But when you're limited to 240 characters and you voice a negative opinion, people will side with you, but people will also like disagree with you. And I'm very much enjoy having a discourse with people. I like talking to people on podcasts through DMs, and like I'll conversate about everything. But what's the point of posting something negative on social media, especially if a bunch of random people that don't know who the hell you are, don't follow you, don't live in the same country as you, are shitting on you? What's the point? Just post positive stuff there. And if anyone shits on positivity, well, that sells you more about them. But if we're in a conversation like this, you'll get my opinion because there's more fleshed out. We can talk about it. I can be sarcastic. But I do believe that every wrestling fan that says wrestling was better pre-1993 is just listening to old RF video of bitter veterans that aren't happy with the way wrestling is nowadays. It used to be better in the territory. Wrestling, but yeah, shut the fuck up.
Don't get me started on Rob Feinstein.
Oh. See, I definitely leave the man out of this. Oh man, why isn't there a Dark Side of the Ring episode on Rob Feinstein?
Probably Chris Hansen owns the rights to it.
His stuff though wasn't even Chris Hansen. It was a local thing.
Next question. Squash, fruit or vegetable?
So like, what's the difference between a squash, a yam, and a sweet potato?
There is one very big difference that will give away the answer.
So I'm guessing squash is grown from the ground, so it's a vegetable?
Nope, it is indeed a fruit.
A fruit. Plus, yams and sweet potatoes actually grow underground.
What's a yam look like? Wait, what's a squash look like?
A squash is like a skinnier, thinner pumpkin.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, I got it confused. So like, I'm Italian, so like my nonna will have like zucchinis and stuff, but I'm not a smart person, so I can walk around the produce section and not know what anything is besides an apple, an avocado, a banana, and like carrots. So everything else is a mystery to me.
Yeah, there was a time where I thought zucchinis and cucumbers were the same thing. So.
And then you taste it and you're like, these are not the same thing.
Yep.
Hey, you're in a lot of other people did not know either. You're in good company, and this just reaffirms what other co-host Kaliko Yachts has been saying this whole time. Next question. New Japan Pro wrestler Taichi's ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question: what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
Depends how good the butt is.
That's a good answer.
There's no it's a fast and loose kind of thing. If you got no butt, hide that. If you have a decent butt, it's okay. You go a little tighter. When I faced someone recently, and they choke slammed me a lot, and they just gave me a wedgie that like I was basically wearing like Rikishi on the back end of my singlet.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as the balls don't fall out,
yep.
That's all that matters.
I've got
we have
2 questions coming from me.
And this is a special question only for Canadians from Canada.
If they'd be from anywhere else. You're Canadian. Where is the best poutine?
Oh shit. So like Quebec has good poutines, but like there's a chain called Smokes Poutinery, and like there's fries, but there's a lot of my mouth is savoring while I'm thinking about this right now. I'm literally having a bunch of saliva now. Literally, you can get whatever poutine you want, and they just put like, so I'm a big fan of like pulled pork poutine.
Ooh.
And they just put like, I swear to God, it's half a baby pig just in that poutine. it's just it's Smokes Poutineery. That's if you go across the border, just look up where a Smokes Poutineery is, and you will not be disappointed.
All right, I love that. I love poutine. Also, a quick note to something we alluded to earlier. I just won $2.12 playing HQ Trivia.
Hell yeah, 212. Woo!
Yeah, and also one of our area codes here in New York City. My next and my next and final question from me in the speed round: is Ryan Reynolds truly Canada's greatest national treasure?
Well, without a doubt, he's the most attractive person. I don't know. I feel like legitimately Canada has some treasures that there's too much land to not have like legitimate treasure up here. So, but I will say Ryan Reynolds is our greatest export.
Alright, fair enough.
Awesome.
And our last question, the one that everybody's been waiting for. Have you ever had a conversation about Darby Allin with a complete stranger in a supermarket?
An interaction?
Yes. Have you ever had a conversation with a complete stranger about pro wrestler Darby Allin?
In a supermarket.
No, I did see that a fan took a selfie with Darby while he was grocery shopping on the weekend. But the only time I talked to people at the grocery store pre-pandemic, at least, was when I was trying to hit on some single moms. So no, not really. Darby doesn't really show up.
Alright, and that is the correct answer.
It's a running bit on our Saturday show. We've all tried to do this, and we all met with failing results. Although those single moms, though, that might give me a reason to go back. Although
yeah, you just got to make sure the ring. Check the ring, because sometimes they're wearing a ring and their husband's 5 feet away.
I'm 36. I am married with a son, possibly more. I don't know. Did some wild stuff back when I was younger, so who knows? But
hey, as long as you don't have to pay child support, that's all that matters.
Damn right.
And that will conclude our interview with Holden Albright tonight. Holden, where can they find you on social media once again?
I am at Holden Pro on Instagram and Twitter. You can add me on Facebook, Brendan Caulfield. I also have a podcast called This is Brendan, where I'm way too open and I talk about, you've heard the way I talk about things, so I have my own podcast where I ask other people random questions and the sort. So go check out those. Thank you so much, guys. It was super fun getting to know you guys. I hope we can do this again during the post-pandemic. I hope I can visit New York so I can see you, Scooter. I hope when I go down to SoCal eventually, I can check out a show and grab what's out there. Is it In-N-Out? Is that a California thing?
In-N-Out. Yep, that's a thing.
Yep.
Cool. Let's have is it animal style fries or something?
4x4 animal style.
But I don't even know why I know these facts.
No, you don't want the fries from In-N-Out. They taste bland and like cardboard. But the burgers are to die for.
I can still get the fries. There's no such thing as bad fries. They're just not the best fries.
Well, see, if you come to New York, I'll take you where the best fries are.
Only we can find good fry places. What kind of pizza are we getting, Scooter? What kind of pizza?
See, that's the thing is that, and this is going to sound blasphemous, but I'm not that big on traditional New York style pizza. Probably because I ate it so much as a kid that a regular pizzeria pizza just isn't appealing to me. So
it's not New York style. It's just style to you, right?
I would rather have Papa John's, Domino's, or I would rather have a gourmet pizza, fired off in a brick oven. There's a place up in Connecticut that serves the best pizza I've ever eaten in my life, and it's got white sauce and clams on it.
Ooh,
Clams.
that doesn't sound bad.
This pizza has been featured on numerous travel shows and cooking shows. It was on in a show on Netflix too. This pizza is
Do you know what city it's in?
God, I really want to say Hartford.
Okay, now I have a reason to go see Hartford, Connecticut, because it definitely isn't going to be signing a contract.
I mean, then you'd be going to Stanford, which.
Well, I would probably technically be going to Torrington because I have cousins there.
Okay.
So, once again, all of Holden Albright's social media information will be in the description of the show, and you can catch us this Saturday on the normal format show of Wrestling with Entertainment. I believe we'll be reviewing NXT TakeOver War Games. And whatever else happens in the week of wrestling, it's going to be a fun one, as always. And you can find me and Scooter both on Twitter as well. You can find me at JamesJ993. And where can they find Scooter?
As always, you can find me at Scooter Dust and representing the UNB Wrestling Network and UNBS Wrestling. Do not forget the Remix, the only live streaming alternate commentary podcast on the web today. 5 years strong and still going, coming to you live with TLC in just a few weeks.
For our very special guest, Holden Albright, Coleco Yachts, Mitch Mayhem, Scooter Dust, I am James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment?
Entertainment.
And